Hi, and welcome to the NASSCO Safety Podcast. My name is Dennis Pivin, and I'm here today with Freddy Garcia from Puris. And we're going to talk about safety culture, Freddy, and a little bit of behavior-based safety and how those two intertwine in our businesses. Welcome.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Freddy.
So Freddy Garcia has been in the business 30 years. I mean, my safety actually started in the military. I worked on the Pershing missile, which was a nuclear missile.
Cool.
So, of course, you had no choice but to do safety, right? So that's where it all started.
Awesome. And how long have you been at Puris?
I've been with Puris 3 years now.
3 years now. Fantastic. All right, so let's kind of kick this topic off because I think it's one of those topics that's the feel-good safety, if you will,
Right.
and not the regulatory side of safety.
Right.
And so with that said, both of us having a lot of experience in safety, we got to help our audience understand what that really means.
Okay.
So from safety culture, let's talk about it more as a culture, and we'll kind of get into what the behavior is and how we want to modify that behavior. What would that look like for you at Puris?
So at Puris, safety culture and behavior-based safety run together. Okay. So when we're talking about behavior-based safety, it's those safety behaviors we want to see out in the field versus the ones we don't. So how do we get to those behaviors, at all times?
Right. So how many crews do you have in the field at a time?
We'll say right now about 60 crews.
60 crews. And how many safety people do you have?
12.
12. All right. So if I'm doing the math, and I'm no mathematician, you can't be everywhere all the time
We
with
cannot.
safety, right?
Correct.
So this is where the safety culture has to be strong in the business, right? And one of the challenges we have, I think, way too often in our profession, and you've heard this before, is the word safety cop,
Right.
right? Now, what does the safety cop mentality look like in your world?
The safety cop is that drill sergeant, that goes out there and tells you you're doing it wrong, but it's not very helpful.
Okay.
And that's what we're trying to avoid. You had some great examples on safety cops.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We were doing a training session with your safety
Right.
team, and when we covered that topic, I brought up the safety cop mentality, and I always like to ask people, how many people will speed? And of course, everybody raises their hands.
Right.
So why are they speeding? Well, they're speeding because they're not going to get caught, right? At the end of the day, there's not enough police officers out there to enforce the speeding laws all the time, so people will take the risk and go ahead and speed, right?
Right.
So once we understand that's the same attitude that a safety cop mentality is, we can't be everywhere.
Right.
We have to have a solid safety culture in the business to educate people on how to behave safely because they want to, not because they were told to.
Correct.
Right? So let's kind of take a deeper dive now into, all right, what does that culture look like, and how do we help our people listening to this podcast, how do we help them get there? What would that look like from the start for you?
I mean, we would need that positive reinforcement. Okay, so for example, with the safety professional going out to the field, if he's out there, when people are doing something good, let them know they're doing good. Don't just focus on the bad. Because we want to start.
Wait a minute. You mean that you want people in the field to stop what they're doing and tell somebody they did a good, safe behavior?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah. Correct. Correct.
All right.
You know, so many times we just hear the negative.
Yeah.
And you're not going to gain anything out of that. There's times we have to make sure we do the corrections, right? If somebody's doing something that's not in compliance with an OSHA regulation or something, or one of our cardinal rules, for example. But we also have to let them know when they're doing a good thing.
I couldn't agree more. And let's circle back a second, because with OSHA, right? In OSHA audits, there's times when OSHA may ask you as an employer to show them your records and show them that you have a discipline program.
Right.
And when it regards the safety rules, and that you are capable of initiating that safety discipline when necessary. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right. Okay. So there's this balance of, we just don't write everybody up all the time, but there are times when we have to. So probably one area where that would carry over more than other areas would probably be around confined space.
Correct.
So why don't you talk about those 5 critical components that are so important to you in confined space?
What we want is we want our employees just to automatically treat every confined space the same.
Okay.
You know you need a tripod. You know you need the winch. You know you need the harness. You know you need the gas monitoring. We want to get away from, hey, do I need to do this? It should be an automatic. If you've got the right culture, the guys are automatically going to treat every confined space the same.
Even if it's 2 foot deep, you mean I got to get all that equipment out for a 2 foot, 3 foot manhole?
And then you got to do your permit and you got to do your air monitoring.
Right.
We just want to make sure we do it right.
Right. And so what you're saying here, to paraphrase for our audience, is that when they're doing that over and over and over, it becomes a culture.
Yes,
it becomes part of their routine, and they just don't question it anymore.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
And what the end result of that is safety.
Correct.
Right? Nobody's life is at risk because they're in a confined space without an air monitor or without some critical component of that.
Right.
And that's coming back into the culture. Right? Good. So now we're going to talk about behavior-based and how it, in the safety culture, how does it matriculate through the organization? How does that work at Puris?
At Puris, it starts from the very top. I mean, you're talking from the CEO to the COO, all the way down to your regional VP, and from your regional VP down to your superintendent. There has to be buy-in from the very top. They've got to show that they're committed, because what the guys in the field see is what they're going to believe.
Yeah, that's so important. How would you advise your CEOs and your chief operating officers to send that message?
I mean, the big thing is when they do go out in the field, because they do, when you're out there, have your PPE like you're supposed to. You're not anybody special that doesn't require this. I mean, you got to lead by example.
Okay, so wearing PPE,
Right.
if you're the CEO and you're going to go out and visit a field crew,
Yeah.
you're wearing your hard hat, your safety glasses, your vest, your boots,
Right.
and you get out there, and what do you mentioned how important it is, but what do the guys tell you when they see that, your field crews? What do they say when, I know you probably hear about this, right, when it happens. What are their usual comments back to you?
They're serious about this.
Isn't that amazing, right?
Yeah.
So it just simple act like that from your
Right.
CEO, your chief operating officer, sets the tone
It does.
for everybody in the field to do what they need to do.
Right.
If he's doing it, I should be doing it.
Yeah, because I mean, you could read a policy all day long and, hey, these are the requirements. But when they see everybody doing the right thing from top to bottom, they're going to believe in it.
Yeah, that's so true. All right, so we've got that senior leadership team,
Right.
right? That CEO, CFO, chief operating officer.
Right.
All right, now we got to drop down to the next level. What does that look like at Puris?
For the regional VPs.
Okay.
So for the regional VPs, I mean, we have commitment from that level. I mean, they participate in our training. They have safety committees.
Wait a minute. You mean regional vice presidents show up and spend 20 hours a year in safety training?
They make time. They do make
Awesome.
time for it.
That's
yes,
fantastic, right?
Yes.
Because I know when I was working in the field and training in your role, when I had that level of VP in the classroom, I would hear about it from the guys. Again,
Right.
it's the message, right?
Yep.
It's the culture.
Right.
When those senior leadership people sit in the room with them, the workers, they go, wow, this is important.
Yeah.
He's right here with me.
Yeah,
Right?
because I mean, they're going to help us reinforce those policies, those requirements out there. They're just going to show their leadership and belief into those policies.
Absolutely. And it helps them to know what the
Yeah.
policies are too.
Yes, it is.
Right? So when you're knocking on the door because you might have a disciplinary situation, they're familiar with what you're talking about.
Yep. And it's a challenge, for regional VPs, to be at every safety meeting, but overall they do a good job of participating.
That's fantastic. All right, so we did CEOs, senior levels, then we did the regional VPs.
Right.
Now who's next?
We'll go to the superintendents.
Okay.
So the superintendents are that level. We'll take it a step back. Once again, 60 crews out there,
Yeah.
12 safety professionals. We can't be everywhere. So somebody there locally at that crew has to lead it. They have to be the leaders when it comes to safety.
Right.
And that's where those superintendents come in.
I couldn't agree more. Now, one of the challenges that I've noticed in our industry is how do you get to be a good superintendent?
Training.
Well, you get
You
there
know.
by training, but how did you get offered the role? It was typically
Well, they
because you were
got
a good
offered.
worker, right?
They did a good job of laying pipe down.
Right. So they put pipe in the ground. They were good at what they were doing,
Yes,
and
they
we
were.
promote them to superintendent.
Yeah.
One of the things we got to give them is skills.
Right.
They may not. Their people skills
Right.
isn't not necessarily what got them to that role.
No.
All right. So if we're going to give them good people skills, and I know you were talking to me about this with doing safety superintendent training.
Yes.
Type models,
Right.
right? Soon, certain, positive, which is a behavior-based safety model in concept,
Right.
versus just discipline.
Correct.
All right, so let's talk about that for a few minutes, all right, for our audience to understand. So soon, certain, positive, right, from a superintendent, looks something like, thanks for wearing your safety glasses today. It's important to me as your supervisor that I come out here, you're working on my crew, that I see you in your PPE,
Right.
in your safety glasses, and your vest, and everything that you did. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Does that work?
It does.
Yeah.
It
Tell
really
them how it
does.
works.
I mean, you go out to a crew, you know when a crew has a leader that totally believes in safety. I mean, because it's not that the safety guy's showing up and everybody's got new safety glasses on or new vests. You could tell that it's an everyday thing for them. But it starts with that superintendent. He has to hold his crew accountable, and he has to lead by example.
Spot on, man. I couldn't agree with you more, right? When you have a superintendent who's wearing his gear,
Yes.
and then praising his crew for wearing their stuff, even when it's 100 degrees out and it's sweaty or it's whatever the conditions that they're all dealing with, they respond,
Yeah.
right? Because what they don't respond to is, put it on because I told you so. Right?
No.
That doesn't work. That's not behavior-based safety. That's
not.
not going to drive the performance in your business, right? So, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more that the soon, certain, positive reinforcement. Now, there's another little bit of a topic. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but I do want to touch on it. And when you get into behavior-based safety, there's some companies that think they need to do a safety reward, right?
Right.
And my experience with that is that if it's a reward like where you're giving out a credit card for you didn't have any injuries this month, so we're going to give you all a $25 gift card, right?
Right.
You and I know that that's not the right direction. Maybe you
It's
can
not.
explain to our audience what some of the pitfalls are. in that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to make sure that employees are not going to hide a first aid from you.
Wait a minute. You mean people would hide for the extra $25
Yes,
gift
they
card?
will.
They
Yes,
won't
they will.
tell you they cut
No,
themselves, will they?
No, they will not. You
No.
just see Band-Aids all over the place.
Right. Right, and then we know what that leads to,
Yeah.
right? Because those little incidents don't get
Right.
counted.
Right.
They don't get reported.
Yeah.
And what does that lead to?
An injury.
A bigger injury,
Yeah.
right?
So we want to make sure that people are being rewarded for participating, whether it's participating through an observation program, help us mitigate some of these hazards that they're recognizing.
Can I stop you for just a second?
Sure.
Because observation programs are a critical component of behavior-based
Behavior-based
safety, aren't
safety,
they?
correct.
Right. So now we've talked about soon, certain, positive,
Yes.
and we're talking about an observation program.
Yes.
And I wanted to tie that together for our audience. What does that look like at Puris, that observation program?
It's been a challenge, to be honest.
It always is.
It's it's a challenge, but we're getting there. We're just showing, another way for these employees to participate. And we're recognizing them. I mean, they could be the next safety champion on the newsletter, but if those employees help by doing an observation and preventing an injury, hey,
It's powerful
it's
stuff.
very
isn't it?
powerful.
And then you give them the recognition
Yes.
for bringing forward opportunities to correct
Right.
unsafe acts. That's behavior-based
It
safety,
is.
right?
It shows that they own it. They're
Right.
part of that program. They're part of the solution.
Right. And they're proud of it.
Yes, they are.
They're proud of whatever you're giving them, if it's a shirt or if it's a sweatshirt or then the gift card. So by doing it that way, you are driving the behavior-based model,
Right.
right, with their participation versus giving out a reward because you didn't get hurt,
Yeah.
right? Because we just said that model is not a good one.
It's not going to work.
You really need to make it about the observations.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of companies take those observations, they fill out a little card, they give it to the safety professional typically, then the safety professional kind of totals things up. Is that similar to what your program is, or how do you work that?
We got QR codes everywhere.
Oh, QR codes.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's easy, less paperwork, but I mean, they could get their phone, hit that QR code and fill out that observation, you know.
How many observations do you ask them to do routinely? Is there a request out there for observations? Because if you don't ask for something, you're probably
You're
not
not
going to
going to
get it.
get it. I mean, right now, what we want is at least 2 or 3 per month per employee. Are we getting that? No, but we have seen improvement, you know.
Okay. Is that something that the safety staff is driving for you? That
They
your
are.
safety team?
They are.
Okay.
You know, that's part of that positive reinforcement when our field guys go out there, you know,
Okay.
our safety team, that, you know, some people might need help. You know, they recognize the hazard, they know how to mitigate it, but they don't know how to put in an observation. And at that point, you know, our safety professional helps them. So
Perfect. You know, I think we made it pretty clear that doing a safety reward program can have its challenges, right?
yes, it does.
Let's say now, I've heard this as a positive approach, and I'm curious on your opinion. Some safety folks will go out and they'll bring basic PPE with them when they go out.
Right.
And if they see a worker who's wearing their glasses and doing everything right, maybe they get a shaded pair of ANSI approved
Yeah.
safety glasses.
Right.
Does that type of thing work for you?
It works.
You've seen
we
that
do
work?
that very often. So, you know, we'll have our safety professional carry some pretty good expensive safety glasses in his vehicle, and when he sees that one person that just routinely always has them on, we reward him with those. So now everybody else sees that, and
Right, and they want some.
they
of
want
that.
some too.
How do I get a pair of those? Right?
Just keep wearing what you're wearing, and we'll get you some more.
Isn't that awesome? So
But-
you've outlined very clearly how behavior-based safety works in your business.
Right.
I like that. We've covered safety culture. We've talked about soon certain positive. We've covered a lot of ground here, so we've probably given our audience a pretty good snapshot of what safety culture looks like and behavior-based safety intertwined, and how management has to interact with this
Right.
system, right? As we wrap this up, right? You got the new safety person coming on the scene. You want to give your 30 years of experience on this topic of safety culture, behavior-based safety. What would you share with them?
Definitely don't be a cop.
Okay.
You know, you've got to be part of the team. You got to show them that, you got to show the crew that you're part of the team. I'm here to help you, and I'm here to, you know, make sure you get home safely every day.
Yeah.
And there's a process, you know, but you've got to get that positive reinforcement, and everybody has to have integrity. You know, no matter who's looking, you do the right thing all the time.
Excellent. And well, thank you again for
Thank
being
you.
here. You've
Appreciate
done a
it.
great job covering safety culture and behavior-based safety. Thank you.
You.
I hope you enjoyed our topic for today. Thanks for joining the NASSCO Safety Podcast. For more information on safety topics, please go to nassco.org, click on Safety, and choose your safety topic.